We will start with an overview of the concepts and the traditional forms of analysis and project analytics in AX today. Before we get started, it's important to understand that the database that Dynamics AX uses today to store information about business transactions plus other data such as employee records and project transactions is called Online Transaction Database, or OLTP for short. The Online Analytical Processing Database, or OLAP for short, is a specialized database that's designed to help extract business intelligence information from the operational data, or the OLTP. Dynamics AX uses an OLAP database to store pre-aggregated forms of OLTP data that speeds up BI queries. Throughout this presentation, we will be using the terms OLTP and OLAP to refer to those databases. Some other important concepts that you need to understand is that of a cube. A cube is essentially a multi-dimensional database which provides a means of organizing measures that have the same shape. That is, they have the exact same dimensions, and those measures in the same cube can be easily analyzed and aggregated and displayed together. Another important concept is that of a measure. A measure actually populates the cell within a cube and tracks a fact that's collected about a business operation. The measures are typically organized by dimensions, which typically include a time dimension. The dimension contain the set of unique values that identify and categorize the data. We can organize dimension hierarchies so that we can look at trends and roll up the values of the measures at any level and drill down to identify the reasons for those trends. The project cube model in Dynamics AX tracks a lot of several key measures and dimensions, as you can see in this graphic. Some of the measure groups that we track relate to the actuals: actual costs, actual revenue, actual hours. Some of them relate to tracking committed costs, hours, item cost, and so on and so forth. Forecasts also are tracked around costs and sales and hours and expenses. Employee utilization is another measure group that helps you track employee productivity by tracking their billable hours, overtime hours, and so on and so forth. Finally, the project plan costs are also tracked in order to allow us to identify earned value management. The dimensions that you can see around these measure groups help us to analyze and drill down and up the dimension hierarchies around the project, the customer, the employee, the vendor, the company, the contract, the project category, and of course, the time dimension. Let's continue with the project-centered analytics in AX today. So the project toolset in AX today spans both the OLTP and OLAP and offers both ad hoc analysis in the forms of the inquiry forms as well as deep analytics based on the project OLAP cube that we referred to earlier. A quick example of some of these forms that are available in AX are the project statements that helps track revenue and profit and loss, invoice control, which helps you track the amount of money you're collecting versus what you quoted to your customer, cost control, employee utilization, again to help keep your billable utilization rate high for your employees, and finally cash flow that helps you track the liquidity within your company. Let's look at some of these traditional forms in AX today. So starting with reports, we can look at the project statement. Under the project statement report group, there is the profit and loss, there is the consumption, the WIP, and the hour rate. So if we fire up the project profit and loss report, we can see that you have a number of parameters that you can select depending on what you're interested in to track the profit and loss. So for example, you can look at the time and material projects, fixed price, and then you can look at the hours and the expense transactions that are contributing to the profit and loss of the project. Then you can pick a date, as I specified here, and then by clicking OK, an SSRS report is generated for that particular period that we have selected in our date range. So here you can see all the projects and the columns that represent the profit and loss for these projects. Similarly, we can look at the project cash flow, and again, I have selected the same parameters in terms of the time and material, fixed price, hours, and expenses, and I have selected a date range. And again, I can look at the liquidity, the cash, the cash inflows and the outflows within my company for each of the projects that I'm running. On the other hand, you can look at the inquiry forms, again, to be able to do some quick and ad hoc analysis. Let's look at the resource assignments. Here, I can look at my resources and be able to find their booking type, if they're hard booked, soft booked, and for which projects and which project manager. And then I can export to Excel for further analysis. So now that we have covered the traditional forms of ad hoc queries, we can actually now switch gears and look at the practice role center, which is again available in Dynamics AX today. The practice manager role center, as you can see, is a one-stop place for the practice manager to get an overview of the health of the practice. Here we have shown an earned value management chart that can be analyzed for actual versus planned costs and be able to get a quick understanding of how you're tracking versus the plan and the earned value that your team members are achieving on that project throughout a specified time period. Below, we have an actual versus forecast chart. And again, here you can pick arrows, revenue, or costs, and look at side by side the forecast versus actuals for the active projects that you have currently running in your practice. One of the nice features of the practice manager role center is that of extensibility. Here we see the business overview web part, and you can extend this list of web parts or edit these web parts with the filters that fits your business needs. So I'm going to go ahead and add a KPI or a key performance indicator. For this, I would go ahead and pick the project accounting cube, and I'm going to name this my top 10 projects gross margin. I'm going to go ahead and select the project transaction date for the current period, and I would like to look at the top 10 split by project. So click OK, and then I should be able to see my top 10 project gross margin list organized from increasing from the highest to the lowest and rolled up at the top. So the extensibility of the Practice Manager Role Center makes it a great fit for any organization to add the KPIs that they care about to run their business and manage profitability within their practice.